For folks who don't understand like how that even materialized in the first place, you have sort of an insider view on who Meghan Markle is. And the reason that she's relevant is for two reasons. One, because she really will not just leave and take the privacy she so desperately apparently wants.
Okay.
And she just won't take it. That's one reason. The other is that she is sort of emblematic of both a woke generation and an attention-seeking generation. She is kind of the TikTok generation, but kind of morphed into one human being.
That doesn't make sense.
And so when people look at her, there's some people in the United States still who are kind of warm to her claims of victimhood and this idea that she's being very emotionally open. And there are other people who look at her and like, this is the most bratty person I've ever seen in my entire life. But you have some actual personal experiences that led up to
I knew her a bit before she met Harry, and she seemed perfectly normal, albeit like most LA actresses I'd met. But she seemed fine, perfectly normal. And there was a weird series of events. One was the wedding, where she suddenly fell out spectacularly with her father, who we now know had brought her up on his own for quite a few years, actually.
Yeah, right.
And she sort of disowned him, and that all seemed a bit sort of brutal and weird because he was just a guy out of his depth, couldn't handle the media, he was being bothered by paparazzi. Eventually did a deal with one of them where he would pose for good pictures of himself, and that was it.
Women.
So that was all going on. And we were thinking, well, hang on, this is a bit weird. And then in the months and months after the wedding, you suddenly saw the pair of them morph from a beloved couple. I mean, they were, when they got married, it was a huge celebration in the UK. £32 million worth of taxpayer money was spent, and nobody begrudged them. She was the first biracial bride in the royal family. That was a big moment for a very multicultural country like the UK. And all the headlines were pretty euphoric, actually, contrary to the narrative they're now trying to make people in America think about what was happening.
Come on now, dog.
But then over the next few months, there's a series of, well, you could call them missteps, or you could call them classic examples of brazen woke hypocrisy. Two people wanting to position themselves, for example, as eco-warriors.
What do you mean by that?
We want you to all watch your carbon footprint. They would say this in speeches. And then they'd catch Elton John's private plane like a taxi service. Or she would preach about poverty in a tweet from their royal Twitter account on the same day she had a $500,000 baby shower in New York.
What?
Here, with a bunch of celebrities, and flew back on Amal Clooney's plane. And so this went on, and it was one after another. And because of the hypocrisy element, the British media in particular were very critical, very scathing, saying, hang on a second, you don't get all the palaces and the servants and the privileged life for this, right? You have to toe the line, you have to do the job. Fact. Which involves often quite dreary duty as a member of the royal family, but you get to be one of the biggest stars in the world on the global stage in return. She, in particular, didn't seem to understand this.
Are you sure about that?
She thought that actually being a member of the royal family was wearing a tiara, getting a fabulous wedding, and then doing what the hell you like. So they began to just do a load of stuff which annoyed people, and they got the criticism, in my estimation, they thoroughly deserved.
Well, duh.
And at that point, they developed this victim narrative, that they were terrible victims of this brutal, racist British media and the horrible British people who were all turning on them for no reason. But it really wasn't like that.
Okay.
And so over time, Harry's inbuilt hatred of the media, which goes back to when his mother died, and I knew his mother very well, that all began to blow up again, as did his resentment of his family and the fact that William, his older brother, is the heir to the throne and he isn't. So William will be king, Harry won't.
Here we go again.
And then you put it all together and then you get Megxit, where they leave the country, they leave the royal family, and they wanted to have their royal cake and eat it. They wanted to stay half in, half out, do the good stuff, get all the trinkets, make all the money out of it, but not have to do any of the duty. And that was where you get to the place of the kind of chasm between them as a royal renegade family and the monarchy and the British royal family left behind.
Wow.
And now you have them doing a Netflix series about their life, incredibly self-intrusive, the most gossipy royal book that's ever been published, including accounts of Harry's conversations with his father and his brother at Prince Philip's funeral service. I mean, quite extraordinary. And you just see a pair of people earning a ton of money purely by trading off trashing their family and trashing the institution of the monarchy, which afforded them their royal titles, which make them the money. And to your point in the question, they've come to kind of encapsulate that mentality of the woke brigade, this sense of entitlement, self-righteousness. We're right, you're wrong. We don't have to play by our own rules. Only you have to.
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
And it's all pretty grubby and tawdry. And they've now ended up as a South Park, mockathon, which has got us all rolling in the aisles and probably reflects where they've now got themselves, which is they're a global laughingstock.
I got you, homie.
So one of the things that Prince Harry has been hanging his hat on in terms of his critique has been, as you mentioned, the media. And for Americans who don't follow the media over in Britain, I'm one of them. I didn't spend a lot of time with the British media, as evident from my obviously amazing interview with Andrew Neil, where I had no clue who he was.
So that was a lie.
Why don't you introduce us to sort of the British media scene? Because it is a very rough and tumble place in a way that I don't think that the American media is quite the same kind of beast.
I'm not so sure. I think what's different about America is you don't have the volume of national newspapers all concentrated in quite a small geographic space. So, you can drive through Texas in the time it would take you to drive from one end of the UK to the other, and you still have time to spare.
You serious?
So to put the size perspective out there, that's the difference. So you have state newspapers, you have city newspapers, town newspapers. You've got a few national papers, but not as many. We have like 12, 13 national newspapers all scrapping for the same 60-odd million inhabitants of the United Kingdom.
Okay.
So it's a bit more intense, I would say, is the main difference. I think when it comes to the royals, the media are the royals' best friend and their toughest critics. We're their best friend collectively, because without the media oxygen, this royal family and monarchy would go the same way of most other European monarchies.
Are you sure about that?
They would just disappear into oblivion. They need the support of the people. The people's support is reflected through the media. It's a connection between the three things: the public and the royal family and the media, and all three basically fuel each other.
Yeah, right.
So I felt that Harry's view of the media was completely clouded by the death of his mother. I completely understand that. I've always said that. His mother was killed by a drunk driver in a French tunnel, not by the paparazzi, who were more than 1,000 yards behind them when it happened. They didn't cause the accident. But his mother was constantly pursued by the paparazzi, and he saw this, and he blames the paparazzi for killing his mother, and therefore he blames the media, even though they weren't British paparazzi, actually. So he has this fixated hatred of the British media. Everything is the media's fault. And when you watch the interviews he gave with his book, it was almost comical.
What do you mean by that?
When they both went on Oprah Winfrey and accused the royal family directly of being racist, we all saw them do it. They basically said a member of the royal family expressed concern about the skin color of their baby. That's an allegation of racism. I mean, inarguably.
How? Hold on, bro. How?
And yet, 2 years later, Harry promoting his book, he didn't put it in the book, this incredible revelation, which caused so much damage. And he then says, well, we didn't say they were racist. It was the media, British tabloids. Completely deluded. Obviously, it was from him and his wife on global television. So there's a delusion there. I think he's not the brightest bulb in the tulip patch, Harry, to put it politely. I think she is very manipulative.
I said, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait, first of all, you're not going to speed past that like you didn't just say what you just said.
Meghan Markle is someone who's basically got rid of almost her entire family on her side, apart from her mother, her entire family on the father's side, including her father, which is incredibly sad. And now she's wrestled Harry away from his family.
Women.
So how happy they really are in this mansion in California when they have no connection now with any of their family, bar one or two people, I find it very hard to believe that makes anybody happy. So it's at one level, it's sad. Another level, it makes me quite angry, the damage they've caused to the monarchy.
Oh, Lord. Again.
I think most British people are sick and tired of them. The polling has them now below Prince Andrew, which I didn't think would be humanly possible. So, it's a mess. And you've got the coronation coming. It should be an enormous moment in British history because we haven't had a coronation in my lifetime. The Queen, of course, reigned for over 70 years.
Wow.
So it should be a moment of great celebration. But what's going to happen to these two are there with their Netflix cameras in tow? It's going to be just another part of the Meghan and Harry circus. So a lot of anger back home about this. Interesting to be in America again and feel the reaction to the South Park mockumentary. Also disenfranchised from her own family on both sides.
I think a better way of looking
on both sides, the only member of her family on either side was her mother. She had people like George Clooney. She'd never met George Clooney.
I'm not getting into
before the wedding.
I don't know about a personal situation, but I do know this family and this media. There is no.
You're blaming the royal family for the way they treated Meghan Markle.
What the hell?
I'm saying, who do you blame in her family then? Are they all to blame too?
It's a completely
different. Because she disowned all of them as well.
Well, I would argue that she experienced abuse from her own family, right? Thomas Markle sold stories. Her sister is awful. We don't even need to talk.
Thomas Markle sold interviews after they threw him to the wolves.
When you've been in an abusive situation, you see it everywhere. And I think perhaps Meghan went with Harry into his family and went, OK, this doesn't seem right. And she knows because she's been there.
Amala, in America, obviously, this is where they've got their new home. They've made hundreds of millions from companies like Netflix, Spotify, and so on by trashing their families. But that shtick is running out of steam. I mean, there's no doubt people's appetite in America and everywhere else is pretty low now for more of that stuff.
Okay.
What do they do? I mean, are they just like rent a celebrity now, or what happens to them?
I don't know. Maybe they fall into obscurity, although I don't see that actually being the case, because as much as they call for privacy and wanting to be alone, they somehow always end up in the press. She did an interview with Oprah. They did this whole Netflix documentary whilst saying that they want to keep out of the public eye and be able to lead their own lives with their families. They continue to complain about the racism faced in a family that they are seemingly no longer a part of. So I'm not sure where they go next from here. There will be some other victim card to play eventually, though.
Fact. I think that is absolutely guaranteed. On a separate point, Amala, interestingly over here, TMZ in America broke an exclusive with the first picture of Kate, the Princess of Wales, in a car with her mother, apparently maybe on the school run. Now, in the UK, those pictures have not appeared.
Why? Why?
Because of an understanding between the media and the palace, the terrible media, James.
Which protects some and don't protect others.
Actually, exactly the same rules would have applied to the Sussexes, by the way, with their kids. Exactly the same. But the deal was they couldn't be published here. I was trying to think in America, it would be unthinkable, wouldn't it, if say, the wife of a president was having recuperation from surgery and was caught by photographers. Unthinkable that everyone but Americans would see that picture. Because everyone outside of the UK has seen this picture of the Princess of Wales, apart from the people here who actually pay the money through taxation for the royal family.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I don't think that would ever happen in the United States. I think Americans would know about that immediately. Now, I don't know exactly how that works in the UK and why that has been held from you, but I can assure you we would know.
Well, duh. One thing that happened here, Kahindi, this is this producer of a West End show, Slave Play, which features a Games of Thrones star, Kit Harington, among the cast. It runs from end of June to end of September at the Noel Coward Theatre, and will have blackout events confirmed to be taking place on 2 of those nights. This is where 2 performances will be aimed at an all-black identifying audience that is free from the white gaze, and it follows a similar thing on Broadway in 2019. Now, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's official spokesman says restricting audiences on the basis of race would be wrong and divisive. I mean, my take on this was, I was trying to imagine if you had an all-white cast and you said, right, we're going to have an all-white identifying audience free from the black gaze, you would go absolutely apoplectic with rage.
It clearly wouldn't be the same.
Why?
Why wouldn't it be the same?
Because the problem here is, if you go to some of these shows, you will find there is an all-white audience. Unfortunately, because of the way it works, some of these places, they are almost exclusively white. And so what this is dealing with...
Just advertising it in that way, you would deem it extremely racist and offensive.
So there is a problem that you have almost all white audiences, and it doesn't feel like a safe space for black audience members or cast members.
Okay.
And so what you're saying is trying to address this problem. Let's have an all-black space.
So when you go to a
that's
theatre, if you see
there's no problem with all
to be
black.
clear, when you go to a theatre and you see white people there, you don't feel safe.
No, when I promise you go to a theatre and it's all black people, you'll feel away. I promise you.
You got me.
100%. Have you ever been into a theatre and it's all black?
I've been to rap concerts in America where I've been one of the few white people. Yeah,
It's different.
I thought absolutely fine, thanks.
The point is, it's different. When you go, it's different for me. When I go into this place, it's different. It doesn't feel comfortable.
That doesn't make sense.
But just
It
to
does
make
feel
it,
it. So,
in answer to my
let's have a
question,
black
though,
cast. It's
answer
fine.
my question, if there was an all-white identifying audience billed as the marketing that was free from the black gaze, you would say that was racist.
Because it would be racist. This is to address a specific problem.
Fact.
There is in the cultural sector, there is all
That
white
only
spaces.
works.
So how do you address that?
Right.
You
So
say, let's create a
racist
different
if
space.
it's to do with.
You're just minimising the importance of that conversation again. You're just making it a hypocritical conversation to cause an argument.
Or am I exposing a double standard?
Stop it. Get some help.
No, there isn't a double standard.
I'm
because
actually exposing the hypocrisy
One of
of
these
it.
groups is a minority and one isn't. And you always bang on, and I hate to bring this in because I don't want to have a debate about it, but you always bring in safe spaces for women, which I completely agree with. And you talk about how important that is. But then suddenly when there's a safe space for black people, you've got an issue with it. So what's going on there?
I don't understand
there's some,
why
there's some double
theatre-
standards there. isn't
theatre
there?
is
No,
not
answer my
an
question,
unsafe
please.
space.
There's some double standards
Sorry.
in that.
You're making out that somehow black people can't go to the theatre for fear of
No,
what?
but we're having a conversation about safe spaces, and the idea is that by doing a blackout event, it will feel safer for that community to talk about
So what if I want to have
issues.
a whiteout event?
They all are white.
Well, I mean,
That's
you
the
can
point.
join the Ku Klux Klan if you want, Piers.
That doesn't make sense.
You're more than welcome.
So if it's a whiteout
we
event,
go.
it's Ku Klux Klan,
no, Piers.
right?
No.
Who are the most racist group in history? I got it.
No, Piers,
So
no,
one
no,
way, if it's whiteout,
No,
Ku Klux
Piers,
Klan.
the point is-
if it's blackout, absolutely fine.
The point is, it's already white.
You see how ridiculous it sounds?
The
You
point is,
see how ridiculous you
Piers,
sound.
go to
Let's bring in
West End.
Amala, the voice of
Already a
common
white
sense. Amala, I mean, just hearing these two, honestly, trying to work out in their brains,
Well, duh.
very slowly, it seems to me, the ridiculous double standard
Not at
of
all.
what they're saying. You must be laughing, aren't you?
Oh, I'm laughing. I'm shaking my head. To me, this is absolutely ridiculous. It is one of the most blatantly racist things I've seen in quite some time. And it's quite literally demeaning to Black people. How insulting that you would say to Black people that they don't feel safe in a space because there are fellow white people there and they need to be safe from the white gaze. And how racist it is to white people to exclude them from being able to enjoy something like the theater. This is very reminiscent of the Jim Crow South that we experienced in America, where you had white and colored water fountains. This is the very same reality that we are now ushering in. And even though we made it to a time of progress where this was no longer an issue, we are inviting it back. It is racist.
It is
it
not
is
the
wrong.
same. In any way, shape, or form, is this the same as Jim Crow? What you
It
actually
is
have,
absolutely the same.
in the minute is go to a show in the West End. It feels like Jim Crow already. It's already a whiteout.
Okay.
This is an anti-racist way.
But
to
if
try and
white
encourage
people,
black audiences.
did this, we're the KKK.
You
says
do
James
it all the
Barr.
time.
Okay.
This is the point.
Yeah.
It's
And
not-
here's
Can
the
I just speak from a
problem.
queer perspective
Here's
for a
the
second?
problem.
From a queer, what about a very
As a gay-
ignorant perspective?
As a gay person,
KKK.
it's important that I am sometimes in a space of other queer people that is just queer people, so I feel safe to be myself.
You exclude
without
straight
worrying,
people like me?
okay? I would exclude you,
That's
Piers, but
bigoted.
if you want to go to JAY with me,
I've been
more
there,
than
mate.
Let's
I've
go
been
together.
there.
Great. But listen, my point is, we need safe spaces so that we feel safe. And actually, you're talking about it being
We don't
racist
feel
to exclude
unsafe
white
with
people.
me standing
Why are
there?
white people not making black people feel
Do you
safe?
feel
That's the
unsafe
question.
now?
That is the
Do
question.
you feel unsafe now with a straight guy opposite you?
Not really, no.
Do you feel unsafe with a white
about
guy?
any
sitting
It's
next
not
to you?
about that,
It's
Piers.
about 10,000
To be honest,
white people
sometimes
don't
I do
say
feel
Reggie.
unsafe sat here actually.
Stop it. Get some help.
So yes, especially with the comments. That
Well,
we
after
received.
comparing my position to KKK,
I did not compare that. I said you could join them if you wanted that. That's what I said.
Okay.
so yeah, just to be clear, if it's free from the black gaze, it's KKK. Free from the white gaze, that's
This is an anti.
emancipation.
This is
Right.
an anti-racist idea. This is what the whole point is, to address a problem.
It's
in the cultural
actually,
sector.
in its
That's the
own
point.
way,
That's
it's
what
just blatant racism.
It's not racism.
It
at all.
is.
not racist.
It's
You can still
excluding
vote.
people on their skin colour.
No.
It's the exact opposite
People-
of what
white
Martin
people
Luther
can
King
still
said.
What the hell?
Judge people by the
But
content
you
of
just
their
a minute
character.
ago, you were trying to exclude Meghan Markle.
Oh, you
from
can't
being
get
black.
more safe in a
You were
theatre
literally-
audience.
You were just
the idea
trying to-
that someone like Kahindi Andrews goes to a theatre and feels unsafe because he's a white person.
Piers, a minute ago, you were
Absolutely
excluding
ridiculous.
Meghan Markle from being black because of her skin colour. Now you're saying that's not allowed. So
Say
which
that
is
again?
it? You just excluded Meghan Markle for her skin colour.
You got me.
Like 20 minutes ago.
When?
You were saying she wasn't black enough.
No, I asked Kahindi whether he believes she's a black woman.
Yeah, she could come to the show.
We've actually had
She could come to the show.
another guest.
Yeah, she's allowed.
We've had another guest say she thinks she's a mixed race woman, right? I think terminology matters.
Right.
You don't?
No, of course I think terminology matters, but I'm just saying you are defining someone by skin colour and then a minute later
I didn't actually define her skin
Can I
colour.
ask a question, Piers?
I didn't actually define her skin colour.